Welcome back to Nomad Chats. And today's guest is Johnny Ward, an Irish adventurer, a blogger, an ultra marathoner, charity founder, and the first person in history to complete the Ultimate Explorer's Grand Slam. He did all of this without a trust fund. He literally went from teaching English in Thailand for $650 a month to now earning over $1 million through blogging alone. You are from Northern Ireland.
There's actually small islands off the coast of West Ireland called the Aran Islands.
I read that you grew up in a single mom household on welfare without going on holidays.
I was born in the south, obviously. My father was there and he was in that prison. He used to beat the shit out of my mom and we ended up escaping to this. And then in the end, my uncle ended up coming. He heard about what was happening. He ended up coming down and kidnapping me and my sister and my mum back. And that's where we ended up back in the north. We changed our names and grew up there.
What did that mean for your ability to dream up your future? What did you think was possible and where did you think you were heading?
Rich is the wrong word because it's got a lot of negative connotations. I just wanted to be financially free. I just dreamt of imagine not having those worries. And then the irony is I do have quite a lot of money now and I still have all those fucking worries.
They're scrolling through social media, they see your blog and they think, I could never do that. What do you say to them?
Life is hard. No one's coming to save you. That's all the negative side. But equally, there's nothing stopping you. Don't worry. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Welcome back to Nomad Chats, the podcast where we go beyond the postcards and we get real with the digital nomads redefining what life can look like when you build it on your own terms. And today's guest is Johnny Ward, an Irish adventurer, a blogger, an ultra marathoner, charity founder, and the first person in history to complete the Ultimate Explorer's Grand Slam, which is when you go to every country in the world, the North and the South Poles, along with the 7 summits. He did all of this without a trust fund. He literally went from teaching English in Thailand for $650 a month to now earning over $1 million through blogging alone. Johnny's story is the ultimate one step forward toward a life of adventure, freedom, and purpose. Welcome, Johnny. Welcome to Nomad Chats.
Thanks, Sam. That was slick. That little brand you squeezed in there.
No, we like to get creative here. And of course, you are a friend of ours at Safe Doing. We know you from the webinar series, which if you're meeting Johnny from the first time, you have to go watch our YouTube videos with him where he literally has taught us how to get rich. Is that accurate?
Well, kind of. It's like I'm an anti-influencer. I hate Instagram bikini shots and bragging online, but and I hate people scamming people, and it's 100 miles an hour like that with when you have an audience. And then Safety Wing kind of saved me. I got sick a few times and and travel insurance. I never had it, and then these guys came, and then I fell in love with them, and then I became helping the brand, and here we are. And then they asked me to also talk about how I made my living, and I was very honest about how I did that step by step.
It's very true. Yeah. And you left no details off the table. You really are an open book and didn't gatekeep anything. So please, if you want to learn how Johnny actually did this and how you can too, specifically with blogging, we have all of that on our YouTube channel. But today we're going to get a little more personal, Johnny. We really want to know the story of you, the journey that you've been on to get to this point and what it's really taken for you emotionally, mentally, identity shifts, all of that stuff. Are you ready to go a little deeper?
I'm ready, but it's more if the audience is ready or not, because I'm a tough love guy. So online, the charity stuff, don't eat meat, young baby, I look very soft, but I'm a tough love person. So the audience has to be ready, not me.
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm down for some tough love. So let's do it.
Right.
We'll start with an easy one. Where are you joining us today? Where in the world are we chatting from on your end?
I'm in my home office in my house in Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Okay. If I was actually sitting across from you in that home office, what's a little detail that's in your space that might catch my eye right now?
Oh, wow, there's a lot. This thing above my head is I took a rowboat across the Atlantic from Africa to the Americas for 2 months. And then this globe, obviously, because I visit every country. That's from climbing Everest, that certificate. That's from running 300 kilometers across the Sahara. That's my from Liverpool Stadium. I'm a big football fan, and that's from my niece and nephew about getting married. But there's loads of stuff. It's quite a big room.
And why is it important for you to have all of that in your space? Does it evoke some type of emotion that you want to feel when you start your laptop and you start your day? Tell us about the why behind these.
Um, I just from my humble origins, I'm well aware that like my achievements are quite big, and I don't think I should shy away from that. I'm proud of them, and I'm happy to display them both to myself and to anyone who cares.
Absolutely. And we care. So let's get into those humble origins. Thank you for helping me tee up that transition. You are from Northern Ireland. How northern are we talking? Is this a remote community, small town? Close your eyes, picture home as a kid. What do you see? Paint a picture for us.
You're very slick at this, Sam. Um, actually, I was born in Southern Ireland. I was born in the Republic of Ireland on on the most Irish place in the whole island. There's actually small islands off the coast of West Ireland called the Aran Islands. Inishmore is the biggest one. I was born on that island. Um, there's actually a famous movie with Colin Farrell, won an Oscar 2 years ago, called Banshees of Inisherin. Have you heard of that or seen that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was filmed on the island that I was born. Um, and that's like hardcore Ireland. People speak Irish instead of English, and like it's just sheep and pubs. And then I I don't know if you want to talk about family stuff, but I ended up in Northern Ireland, and that's where I grew up from like 3 to 18.
Yeah, I want to get into that. I read that you grew up in a single mom household on welfare without going on holidays. How did that feel? Did you feel like the odds were stacked up against you growing up?
Not really, because it started worse. I was born in the south, obviously, and my father was there, and he was in and out of prison. I used to beat the shit out of my mom, and we ended up like escaping to this. Uh, I don't think it's probably not called this in 2025, but what we referred to it then as a battered woman's house, like a
Wow.
safe house kind of. So then we spent some time there, and then in the end, my uncle ended up coming. He heard about what was happening. He ended up coming down and kidnapping me and my sister and my mum back, and that's where we ended up back in the north. We changed our names and grew up there. And then my mum was depressed for like 10 years. Obviously, that was a shitty situation for her. So that's when we were on welfare from when I moved up there until I was about 14, 15, and that was tough. Like no father and just broke, and like welfare back in Ireland, and that was the late 80s, early 90s, like 50 quid a week or whatever. So that was tough. We had no car, no central heating, and like. But at the end of the day, with me, with all my travels, it's poverty, but it's first world poverty. We still have a roof over our head. I still have free education, free healthcare with the system in Ireland. You know what I mean? So like at the
Mm,
time, I was the broke. I felt super poor, but now having seen the world, it's all relative.
mm. That's such a great point. And it seems like you've done a lot of work and looking back at that time and still being able to focus on the positives and know that that was a big part of where it got you today and that you're still grateful for things that you had back then, which I think is beautiful. You mentioned, though, you still felt very poor. So, what was your relationship with money back then and how has it changed today, knowing that a lot of your bio and the information you share on the internet, it leads with getting rich, right? So, going from feeling so
I
poor,
wouldn't I wouldn't say that, to be honest.
no?
Because no, because let's I've been doing this since 2009, so it's been over 15 years, and the first half of those 15 years I was broke and blogging about how to see the world and live a full life regardless of your income, because I had none.
Mm,
And then the second half I worked out how to make money from my blog and became a millionaire and all that. So I would say that's just a part of my circumstances. Like in the same way that the first half I was very open about how broke I was, and then in the
mm,
second half I was very open about how financially free I was. You know what I mean? I think it's a side note, and also like if people are watching you buying nice watches and traveling in first class and stuff, it's a bit disrespectful to have an audience and then be sitting like, how the hell is he affording this? So I just
mm,
try to keep things open.
hmm. And how has your relationship with money changed now that you're financially free? Do you buy the nice watches? Do you fly the first
Yeah, I
class?
do.
Okay.
I do, but um, like when you grow up like that, you have a. Can we swear or not? I have to be on my best
Yeah,
behavior.
I think so.
It fucks up your relationship with money, of course, and like what my I'm very close to my sister, and she's got two kids, and my nephew and niece, and they're about 10-ish now, 10 and 12, and she's a great mom, like super mom, and but she basically said to me words that I live by depressingly. That's like all parents fuck up their kids, and all you're doing is trying your best to fuck them up as little as possible.
Totally. Yeah.
So like my mom was trying her best. She came from a really shitty situation with my dad, like really shitty. It doesn't get much worse, and um, then we were then we were just on the breadline, and my mom was too proud to ask for help, so we didn't have anything. Like we weren't like at least this is what I'm saying. I feel bad having traveled the world saying these things, but at the time it was quite disturbing. We never had Coca Cola, we never had pizza, da, 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 you know, we'd never had takeaway ever for years. Didn't go on holiday obviously for 10 plus years, and I understand that if you're speaking to someone, even in Thailand where I live, there's a lot of people suffering more than that. But at the time, to me, that felt like everyone else had these things. Why don't I have these things? So it fucked up my relationship with money, um, in two ways, really, like both beneficial and negative. So the beneficial side is I'm very careful with my money and I invest it, and I understand how hard it is to come by. So when I earn it, I invest it, and it set me up to a position now. Like when I first started making 50, 60 grand a month 10 years ago or whatever, it would have been very easy for me then at like early 30s in Thailand to be in a big penthouse driving a Ferrari around Bangkok, thinking I was a hero, and the money would have just disappeared. But I didn't. I
Yep.
stayed humble in a like small little condo and wore my H&M clothes for 10 plus years and put myself in a position where like now I'd be okay if it all crumbled. And that was one side of the relationship with money. But then also it gives me a lot of financial stress. Like I've got an awful memory of being like 7 or 8 years old, and my granny, who's dead now, but she gave me a like 50p for my pocket money. It's like, what's that, 75 cents or whatever. And I so I was 7 or 8. You don't really know what's going on financially then. I remember thinking, "Fuck, we're so poor." I came home early. I was like, "Oh, we live next door to my granny." I came home and went to the kitchen, told them that I wasn't hungry, and I put the 50p in my mum's bag because I knew how poor she was, and I was like, "Okay,
Mm.
she'll find this, and this will be like 50p that she has more." And I'm like,
Wow.
so then it get that kind of obviously I looking back now as an adult, like that's I clearly had financial anxiety even then at 7, 8 years old, like on my mum's behalf, and I still
Hmm.
carry that now. And now I've got a few million, and still I worry about it. Like wake up in the night being like, oh, what if what if it all burns down and I can't afford to send my kid to private school in Thailand, and what if I can't afford health insurance and da da da. So I still like suffer with that, even though I've got like nice income, nice investments, multiple properties. I still feel like tense about it. So that's that's not a healthy relationship with money actually, but here we are.
Is that something that you're working on or want to change? Or do you think it's part of what makes you successful?
Yeah, I think that. I think the latter. I love because I'm a bit autistic. If my kid gets diagnosed with autism, I'll get diagnosed along with him. So like my life is lived on spreadsheets, and I have like a massive net worth spreadsheet that I check twice a week religiously, every single thing, all the way down to like Netflix. And I'm sure most people don't do that.
Hmm. Okay. So back then, you're pretty open about where you were at and what your financial situation was. What did that mean for your ability to dream up your future? What did you think was possible and where did you think you were heading?
Um, so as a kid, like I was always straight A. Like, I was quite a bad kid, getting in trouble in school and stuff. But I always got straight A's in my exams, so I knew I was quite smart. So and because of this financial issue, uh, I always wanted to be rich. That was like because I was so frustrated how
Mm,
limited our life was, and I could
mm,
see how much my mom was struggling and striving and never could never get her head above water. And I just dreamed of people going on holidays and owning their own house. Like we didn't have any
mm.
of that. And I just always wanted to be rich is the wrong word because it's got a lot of negative connotations. I just wanted to be financially free. I just dreamt of being. Imagine not having those worries. And then the irony is, I do have quite a lot of money now, and I still have all those fucking worries. So uh, I don't
So
know what the
money
solution is.
so money doesn't take away the concern about money, but what has money provide? How has your relationship with like freedom and independence evolved from how you thought about it as a kid to how you think about it now?
I I'm just. I actually spoke to my wife about this yesterday because like I just had a baby, and for my kid, like I'm buying him all the best stuff, and And I'm sure that's 51% because I want the best stuff for him, but 49% because I didn't have anything, right? So
Mm.
I don't mean toys and stuff. I mean the best stroller that's the most comfortable that costs $10,000, so it's perfect. Even though one for half the price is probably only 0.1% worse, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then yesterday, like because we travel a lot, obviously, and I'm taking my kid and my wife to Turkey next week for the for a conference, and we bought like a second stroller and a second uh, what do you call them, seats to put in the car if we're in Uber or whatever, and
Car
all that
seat.
costs a fortune. Yeah, and all that costs a fortune, and I just thought like I said to my missus like we just need to remember that it's a blessing that we can even travel internationally when the kid's only 6 months old. But also for other people who manage to afford that, they don't just go in and drop thousands of dollars on something that's slightly lighter and slightly easier to pack. They would just have to figure a way out to deal with what they have. Like this is amazing that we can do these things. You know, so I really try to take a step back and appreciate these things.
Hmm. And how much more comfortable your life is,
I
really, is that
know,
what
but this
that's
is,
afforded.
but I've been, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and even if you try your best to appreciate what you have, it's very difficult because when you don't have something, the pain of not having it is huge. Oh, this would be so much easier if I had A, B, and C. I'm not talking about luxury stuff. I'm talking about when you've got nothing, like growing up. But
Hmm.
then the thing is, when you have it, you don't put yourself back in that position of not having it. You can't feel that gap, you know. In fact, all you see is the next gap to the next thing that would be more comfortable,
Yep. Capitalism.
and that's yeah. I don't know. I think it's human nature. Like that's how we've evolved to strive for more. And if we didn't have that, we'd still be living in caves, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, you've alluded to some international travel with your new son, which is amazing. I want to get into that and your shift from Northern Ireland, having this challenging upbringing, to being a nomad. So I read that your very last university exam ended at 3 p.m. and then you're on a flight to New York City the next morning. One, is that
Yeah,
accurate?
hungover.
And
Yeah.
two, was that the beginning of your nomad life?
Um, not really. So I went to school in Northern Ireland. Left when I was 18. My mum, I've got a brilliant relationship with my mum. I know everyone thinks that, but I really do. Like, she lived. I just built her a house 500 meters from this house, and she lives in Thailand now.
Oh, that doesn't
So
surprise
she,
me from what we've already
so
learned.
she,
That's so lovely.
yeah, thank you. So she always supported me emotionally.
Mm.
Actually, it makes me really emotional now, especially now I make money because I remember when I turned 21. No, I think when I first moved to Thailand when I was maybe 21 or 22, and she gave me 2 grand, and like she had been saving for literally
Mm.
15 years for that 2 grand, and I just think like the battle to have that 2 grand versus what that means to me now, it's kind of it's quite upsetting it's very bittersweet, that I know she
Mhm.
strives so much for that, and then it's all so relative to income nowadays. And anyway, um, sorry, what was the question?
So curious about this story of school ending, and I have this
Ah,
picture
yeah,
of
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah,
finally being
yeah.
done school, finally being quote unquote free, getting immediately on a plane, and finally realizing potentially this desire to travel and see the world that was always there. And now you finally
Mm.
had the time freedom to do that. That's the picture I'm painting. Correct me where I'm off track.
I always wanted to travel, always, as a kid as well, because we never went on holiday. We went until I was 15. We went to France. We drove and took a boat to France because we couldn't afford flights. It's like stayed in a tent. And we did that twice. And that was the only time I'd left Ireland. Um, so I'd always dreamed of traveling, always. And then when I went to university in England, like my mum always wanted me to get out of Ireland, especially Northern Ireland. I know people know a little bit of stuff about the IRA and the UVF and the Protestant Catholic stuff that wasn't great and still isn't perfect. So my mum wanted me to get away from all of that stuff. So she promoted me to leave Ireland and go to university in England, which, as like a small town Irish boy, even that is traveling. Like
Mhm.
suddenly I'm the Irish kid, like another nationality in this English university. Um, and that was cool. And then, but every summer at university, I would go and work at these special needs camps in the USA. So I'd started doing travels like for 2 months or 3 months every summer. But it was only the USA, so culturally, like, of course, different to Ireland and England, but it's not a million miles away compared to the rest of the world. So I would spend my summers in the US. But then, yeah, and then I had a girlfriend at uni, and all I talked about for 3 years was like, I'm going to hit the road, and like, you're welcome to come, but this is happening regardless. Of, like fuck my career. I want to go see the world. And she was kind of into it for maybe 6 months or whatever, and then in the end we broke up in the last year of uni, and I was like, right, see you there. And then yeah, I did my last university exam, and then just partied all night, went straight to the airport, like hungover mess with a load of stuff shoved in a bag, and then never lived in the UK or Ireland again. I was what, 22.
And would you say you were running more towards something or more away from something else back then?
Yeah, I know that's a common cliche when people talk about traveling the world and stuff. For sure, I wasn't running from anything. For sure not. I wanted to see the world. I was ready to have like an adventurous life, like
Mm.
parties and beaches and mountains and languages and foods and cultures and beautiful women and getting lost and disappearing. Like, I was ready for it. I wouldn't call that running away at all. I was ready to see the world, like open arms, open heart, like, come ready for it.
Yeah. Was there a single country or experience where you felt like, okay, I could just do this forever? This is not just a phase. This is my new life.
Yeah. So I traveled a little bit, but I had no money, obviously. And my mum had no money. So I couldn't do one of these like gap year things because I'd literally no money. So I don't know if I mentioned it in the last time, but I flew back to Ireland and did this medical research where you get locked in a hospital for 5 weeks.
Oh my
And
gosh.
because I literally had no money. And
Yeah. Was the research
I
being
took
done
me,
on you or you were
yeah, on me.
facilitating?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, it was done on me. I was locked in this room for 5 weeks, not allowed to leave.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
and I had like 18 injections a day. I still have a scar on my arm from it, like where I had like, just because I had like,
Johnny.
what, 18 a day for 5 weeks. Ding, 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 ding. And then I got paid two grand or 3 grand for that. And I got released from like that hospital prison thing. You're literally not allowed to leave. You're not allowed visitors. You're not allowed out the door because they've got to keep all the variables constant.
Wow.
And then with that money, like, I don't know, it was 2 grand sterling or 2 grand US, so roughly like between 2 and 2.5 US. And I used that money to book a one-way ticket to Thailand and do like an English teaching qualification at TEFL. And then that money disappeared. And then I flew to Thailand, got a job in Thailand. So right at the very start of my journey was Chiang Mai, Thailand, actually, where I am now, 15 years later. And one day I got a job. Actually, I did my TEFL qualification in Chiang Mai in Thailand for a month. That cost about a grand of my 2 grand, and then the flight was, I say, 500 quid. So I had like 500 quid left to survive and try to get a job. And I had a job in China, but then I fell in love with Chiang Mai, so I just reneged. It's actually awful. I just didn't show up on the flight to China and stayed in Chiang Mai, and I got a job here. And then I was driving to work one day on a little shitty $100 moped that I bought off someone, like a black market, not registered, no license or anything. I was driving to work one day with my mate who was working at the same school, and there was an elephant like walking across the street
Oh my
with
gosh.
his mahout, obviously. And it was like 7 in the morning, and the sun was rising, and I was just thinking like, wow, what am I doing? This is just unreal. Like, I've got my teaching qualification. I'm 22, 23 years old. Got my cool mate driving his motorbike beside me. We're on the way to work. I've got an income, even though it was only $650 a month, but who cares? I was like living in a cool little apartment. And I was like, this is it. I am fucking doing it. Just, it's changed. Yeah, I was still broke, but I was like, I was living my life, and I was like, this is it. This is actually it. And I always did plan originally to like have these wild adventures and go back and work in finance in London because I wanted to be rich after being poor my whole life.
Yep.
But it was that morning when I was driving to work after like 3 months in Chiang Mai, I was like, this is it. Like, and with that teaching qualification, this is before people were making money online. I was like, I could go live in Peru, I could go live in Mexico, I could go and teach English in Senegal. Like, it's not like I was married to the idea of teaching English, but hey, the
That
freedom
was
to
your
live in all
ticket.
these countries. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, this is fucking it.
Okay, so you said blogging wasn't really a thing. People weren't really making money on the internet yet. Was there a culture of posting about your life on social media? Like, I'm wondering what your friends and your family back home in that small community, Northern Ireland, what they were thinking, seeing pictures
Yeah,
of
I
you
know.
living
I
large in
know.
Thailand with the elephants. Like, did they get it?
Well, I wasn't living large. I was living in like a 20 square meter studio apartment. I took the
Living
batteries out of my
free.
air. I took my batteries out of the aircon for 12 months because I couldn't afford the aircon. So I was still completely broke. Um, but living free, yeah. So Facebook, this was 2007, 2008. So Facebook was started, and
Hmm.
I actually posted a lot every 3, 4, 5 days about what I'm doing because I really wanted to show people from my background we can do this, and it's fucking cool. Like you're not necessarily going to be rolling in cash, but like I am living my life here, and I really feel, especially for any younger listeners, social media back then wasn't polished and refined. You weren't trying to play with algorithms, and I don't think it was so braggadocious. I don't think it was. I think it was more sincere, and
Mm,
I truly to this day know that my message was sincere. I wasn't saying fuck you guys, you guys are losers, Johnny Ward's cool, look what I'm doing. That was not my message at all, and I hope it's not my message now still. Which is why my following isn't that big, even though my life is cool, because I don't play these games with
mhm,
algorithms and networking. Da, da, da. My message honestly was like, this is fucking cool, and you can do it.
mm,
And so I was quite active on my personal Facebook back then, and, which is glorious because although I don't use Facebook as much anymore, I still do use it. Like, I've got all the memories that it comes up
mhm,
with memories, and I love it so much.
mhm. And people can either be inspired, right, by our
Mm.
success, or they can get triggered, and that could actually negatively impact your relationships with people. Can you share any memories from that time of how it impacted your relationships with people still back home,
Yeah,
still living that way and not
yeah,
having this freedom that even though you were coming from a good place, did it always land inspirationally and empowering?
yeah. I can, and this is like a advertisement for Ireland. Like when my story, like 10 years later, when I started making the money and starting with all these big accomplishments and getting featured in things and TV and blah blah blah. My town in Northern Ireland, Kilkeel, it's called, it's maybe 6, 7, 8 thousand people, has been so supportive and like the wind behind my sails from day one. And that's very Irish. I know in
Mm,
England, like people try to knock you down. In Europe, people try to knock you down. USA is a bit better for this too, about supporting success and ambition. But still, there's a lot of people in the US who still try to bring you down. Ireland, I honestly believe, is not like that at all. I have had nothing but love and support and good on you and keep going and da 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 from Ireland my whole
mhm.
life, both from people in my town and the island in general. So I know that I know, Sam, like you're very good at this, but you were probably thinking I was going to say, yeah, some people didn't like it. I literally have never had that once ever.
I'm so happy for you. That's amazing.
It's
Yeah,
not about, but it's not about me. It's about the culture of Ireland. I think honestly, what
yeah,
Northern Europe. I don't know as an American. Are you American? Yeah,
I'm Canadian.
no Canadian. I don't know as a North American. Do you do you guys know the distinguish between the cultures within Europe and like Northern Europe? Can be quite cold. I know it's very successful and stable, and the economies are strong, the welfare state's strong, but they can they're it's almost humble to the extent where they're ashamed of their successes and people try to pull you down. And but then Ireland being this island, for some reason, has always been very different to that. It's a very warm culture, you know. I mean, it's bloody freezing and pissing down with rain all the time, but it's warm
Mhm,
and the energy is so warm and people are so supportive of strangers, of people they know, and it's very old school like that. And I
mhm,
feel like Ireland's like maybe I mean Canada is also can also have a claim to this, although it's changing quite quickly. Ireland's one of the first, one of the few, if not the only one or two first world nations that still retains that. That it's not
mhm.
big walls between your houses and like separate. It's still not like that. I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm happy for you. It sounds like you were inspiring people back home, and that's always I feel like that comes very much through to your brand today. It's always coming from a let me show you how you can do this too versus let me show off how successful I've become. And
Yeah.
I think that's accurate about your brand. So just mirroring that back to you because you said that you hope that was true. I feel you give that off for sure. And I think that's kind of what it takes anyway right now. I think people are starting to see through that. People are kind of tired
Are
of
they? Are
people
they? I
promoting.
hope you're right, Sam. I hope you're right.
I feel a shift changing towards these unrealistic, away from these unrealistic, aspirational lifestyles to more people being honest about what it takes, the highs and the lows. And probably that's because what the algorithm is rewarding, right? Algorithm is actually rewarding more vulnerability. People want to see the hard stuff. So it's
Mm,
unclear what came first, but I feel a bit of a shift. I do.
okay.
Let's transition now to your blog and shifting your identity from a clever adventurer and traveler who had figured out your ticket to be able to see the world to a true entrepreneur. So you started your blog one step forward. I see here while working a 9 to 5 in Sydney. Talk to us a little bit about the shift to Sydney and what was the initial focus for your blog? What were you sharing with the world?
Yeah, although on that transition, I wouldn't say either of those things are highly accurate. I wasn't some smart adventurer. I was still broke in Asia, lost but happy and fulfilled. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
I
And
do.
then even now as an entrepreneur, like still absolute chaos is in my
Hmm.
life. And my final product of all the different things that I do, like with the events and obviously the website, and I've got a marketing company and da 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 da. Even the product doesn't look that polished. So you can imagine what the fucking state of behind the scenes looks like. So it's very far from from that nice sleek transition that you give.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But
things
thank
can be
you.
messy in the background. That just could be your style, right? That could just be the way
Sure,
you
sure,
thrive in the
sure.
chaos, in the drama you create for yourself. Like maybe that makes you feel alive, which we're going to get into because you've definitely chosen some very intense adventures in your travel journey. But coming back to the blog, what was the initial focus? Why did you want to share that with the world? What sparked this idea of documenting your journey in a blogging format away from Facebook, which sounds like you were one of the early people doing it consistently?
Hmm. Um, a few things. So I taught English in Thailand. I was 24 when I first moved to Thailand. Let's say 23, 24, right? And then I taught English in Thailand, and then because I'm legit a bit autistic, right? So I get obsessed. That's how I got obsessed with every country in the world, and I love lists and I love spreadsheets. And I was like, okay, what's Southeast Asia? What constitutes Southeast Asia? I'm going to visit every country in Southeast Asia, and then I'm going to visit every country in East Asia and Southeast Asia. And became obsessed with it, right? Even though I was still broke and I had no money. So then I did that during my English teaching time, and I kept running out of money because I literally didn't have any. And then I had a contact from an Irish guy that I know in Korea, and every time I ran out of money, I would fly to Korea and do these English camps for these rich Korean kids, and then I would get
Hmm.
2 grand or 3 grand, and I would fly back and continue, run out of money, call them, fly back to Korea, 2 or 3 grand, back to Asia, and then until I finished every country in East Asia and Southeast Asia. And then I had like again like $800 left in my account to my name and no credit facilities like in North America. Like I was completely broke, no safety net. My mom doesn't have any money. Um, and I was thinking, what? So that was I was 26, almost 27 then. I was thinking it's still cool. Being broke traveling the world 26 and 27 is still cool, but there will be a point that it's not cool anymore and you're just like a bum and that you'll never be able to have a family, you'll never be able to buy a house, you'll never be able to be truly free. To be free in your 20s, you can be free while you're broke. But as you transition into your 30s and certainly into your 40s, freedom, you need money. You can't be naive. You need money to be free because that involves flights. And then if you have kids, like when I talk about private school for my kid, I don't mean like because I need him to go to some fancy school. I live in Thailand, which is a second world nation, so the government schools are awful. So it's either a government school or a private school. Like if I was in Ireland, I would send him to a government school.
Yep,
But
I
here I
get
live in
it.
Thailand, and that's how it is. So I have to send him to private school. So for me to be free, that's 20 grand a year right off the bat. And if I had a second one, 40 grand off the bat. Blah blah blah. So it's anyway. My thought process was like, it is cool and romantic to be broke traveling the world at 26, 27, 28, and even 30, 31, 32, 33. I still think it's okay. I mean, this is just my own, in my own framework. I'm sure other people feel differently, but this is I truly believe this to be certainly my reality, if not reality. And then I thought, right, I need what happens like if I suddenly need to make 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year. Like I actually have no experience doing anything like professional. So I'll go to Australia and I'll get a real job, not like in a bar or whatever. I'll get an office job and test it out and try to have some experience. And I did that. And I worked for this company that was selling conferences, and I worked in sales, like calling people business to business. It's fucking brutal. And then I remember calling my mom on like a Sunday night, before obviously starting work again on the Monday after like 6 or 7 months, almost in tears. Like I was so
Mm.
depressed. First time in my life I'd ever felt like that. I was like dreading going into work the next day because I just hated it so much. Like I felt really captured. Um, and then also the sales process brutal as well, and cold calling, cold calling, cold calling. It's business to business, so you're not cold calling people on the street. It's still awful. And then what happened was I would be like, I would get finish work on a Friday and like party on Friday night till 5 in the morning, play football or whatever on Saturday morning, and then by Saturday lunchtime, I started to feel this massive weight, thinking, "Oh my God, it's Saturday lunchtime already! Like in 36 hours, the weekend's over, and I'm back to the grind." And I was like, "I cannot fucking do this. I need to find a way out of here." And that was 2010, and just 2010 was the dawn of people blogging. Basically, that was pre Instagram, I think, or certainly right at the cusp of it. Pre YouTube even, or again at the cusp of it. So people weren't making money from
Okay.
social media yet,
Yep.
and people weren't, but they were starting to make money from blogs, from websites, traditional websites. But I don't know. Even to this day, I'm not great at tech. And I was like, how are these people doing this? That means they're good at writing and they're traveling and they know how to do all this tech stuff. Like, how the hell am I going to do this? And then I found some Filipino guy and I paid him $100. And I was like, "Can you build a website for me?" And he did it while I was at work, skiving off. And then for like the last 3 months at work, I didn't do any work. I just built that website. And then once the website was built, I went to my boss, and my boss had sponsored me to live there permanently. I had a permanent visa for Australia then because I was quite good at sales, even though it was fucking awful. And I said, like, "I'm so sorry, man. I'm actually depressed. I've got to leave." And he's like, "When are you leaving?" I was like, "I'm flying to Zimbabwe tomorrow." And then it's just
Tomorrow.
fucked
I gotta
off.
go
Yeah.
tomorrow. Wow.
And I flew one way to Zimbabwe, and then I spent like almost a year in Africa, going from South Africa up to Syria overland, all by public transport with no flights. And I blogged every day, shitty, like awful blogging because there was no model. And during
Hmm.
that year, the blog started making money, and then that
What were
changed
you
my life. I
blogging
was doing
about? Were you documenting your travels, right?
yeah, documenting my travels, but awful, like very shallow content. I don't mean
Hmm.
shallow in terms of like flexing. I mean that's like a SEO term, not many words per piece of content. I mean,
Okay. And how were you
and like so,
monetizing it that quickly? Because that seems either you just
well,
took a
there
big
weren't
leap
many.
of faith or like you quit your job for
Yeah.
this blog. Was it monetizing then?
Well,
Was it making
I'd
money?
also saved. I had saved 12 grand,
Okay.
and I knew like from my last 5 years or whatever, I could probably live on that for not just live on it. I don't want to just be one of these guys living in a hut in Thailand. I want to see the world and experience
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So I thought, I could probably live like super cheap travel. I could probably do 2 years and then see where I am.
Okay. And how did you end up learning about the business side of the blog? So you hired someone to build the website, but like ads, SEO, blogging, I'm
Yeah.
sure is much different than how are you learning it?
Do you know what? It wasn't that different. The content, the thing that was different was my content is average now and was shit then. But my shit content then had almost no competition or
Okay.
very little competition. So it was
Okay.
very easy to rank. And I didn't know anything about SEO, but people were buying links on my site, which I talked about on the safety wing thing. And
Yep.
uh, I didn't even know why they were buying them. And but like within like 6 months, I was making maybe $500 a month, and then within a year, I was making like a grand or two a month. And they were buying these links, and I'm like, why are they buying these fucking links? Like no one's reading this shit. Now I
Yeah.
obviously know that how the SEO world works. But I
Yeah.
was selling, I was up to about 3 or 4 grand a month, after
Okay.
like 18 months before I even knew why people were buying advertisements on my site.
Yeah. I
And then once I
mean,
understood it, then obviously went to another level. But I was like, wow, okay, just carry. I'll just do what I'm doing then. If people are coming, just do what I'm doing.
so kind of just you kind of fell upon success in a way. Like you definitely worked for it. You were creating the content and putting it out there. But in terms of how it was even going to make money, you didn't necessarily have a plan. People just started coming to you and saying, hey, could you put my link to my website on your site and I'll pay you this much money
Mm,
for it,
yeah, right.
right? How
Yeah,
did
but
your
I knew
mind?
bloggers. But I knew bloggers were starting to make money. I didn't understand the ins and outs of it. And even to this day, there's a lot of bloggers who are much better bloggers than me and much better at tech than me. But like, I know I make more money and da 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 da, so I don't care.
Yeah.
And same attitude then. And also, like, my life comes first. I was living the life that I wanted to live, going from Cape Town to Cairo overland and all through Syria. Like, I don't care. I don't want to sit at home and learn everything. I think people are paying me, and I'm seeing the world, and I'm 29, and like coming from where I come from. Like, this is it. I was loving it. And then you talk about like maximizing your revenue, but I'm more about like I don't care about that. Like, my life comes first. You know, like a lot of people then sit at home and grind it out. And there is a certain extent of like make hay when the sun shines, but I mean, don't sell your youth for what?
Okay. But you are motivated by money. You were motivated to
Yeah,
not
yeah.
be poor, right? And now that you have it, it's like you're motivated to make money, but still live your life. And it's probably a
Life,
balance that you're
life
having
comes,
to
but yeah,
navigate.
uh, yeah. Of course, there's a balance to be found, but it's not a balance I've ever struggled with.
Okay.
I mean, I think about work a lot, and I work every day. I haven't not worked one day for like over 10 years. Like, I never take holidays ever. I mean, I'm on holiday a lot, but I'm always with my laptop, always working a few hours a day.
Got it.
But I don't. But if in terms of like sacrificing opportunities to do cool stuff, see cool things, meet cool people, like I've never missed any of
Nice.
them for work ever.
Good for
And
you.
well, and also, I was so depressed in that job in Australia. Like, that is the for me, and I was making good money, but for me that was like the worst life ever. In a cool country with cool friends, a cool company, if and really good money relative to what I had ever had before, and if I'm not happy doing that, like not just not happy, if I'm the most unhappy I've ever been in my life, that is clearly not the answer for fulfillment for me, you know. And then, and it's kind of a common cliche now, and I really agree with it. I would then, especially when my blog was making like $500 a month or whatever, I remember reading, or did I say it? I don't know. That I'd rather make a grand a month online for myself than 10 grand a month in an office, and I feel like that to this day.
Hmm. Sounds like you really have your priorities in check, which is amazing. The blog is one step forward. What does that mean to you now, even after all this time?
That's a good question, Sam. I don't want to identify in my life or be defined by a blogger. Like, oh, do you know Johnny, who are the blogger?
Mm,
And I feel like, and that's not just about the blog. I feel like that when I finished visiting every country, I see a handful of other people who visited other country, finished visiting every country, like maybe 200 people have done it or something, and I see 10 years later them resharing stuff from 10 years ago, and they've been defined by that one thing in their life, you know, and I
mm.
find that really sad. I find that also, so I really I don't want to ever be defined by my blog. That being said, I still think it's a nice message from me to anyone who cares that to make the transition from like struggling family situation to being free, both financially and more importantly with time, is possible. And there's um like a step by step. If you scroll back fucking years of my shitty content, you can see how literally I did it. So I think it's like I'm proud of that body of work, even though the writing's not beautiful and professional and da da da. Da. I just know that it's out there, and it was and it
Yeah.
tracks what I've done, and I'm proud to have that there. Even though I know it's far 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 from perfect, but I know that equally if people are interested, it's there.
This might be a dark question, but have you thought about the blog living on past you?
I don't find that a dark question. Life and death and money and like we're all gonna die, and
Will
that's
you still
okay.
pay for the hosting fees while you're in the grave, in the sky,
I
wherever
would
we believe in?
no, I talk about this a lot. You know, my mom's because I'm so close to my mom and she's got Parkinson's disease, so I try to be quite pragmatic as much as we can about these kind of things. You know, what I would do, obviously, now I have a kid, is like have it set up in my will for them to sell it so they can live off the proceeds.
Okay. You got a plan. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the ultimate explorer's grand slam. First of all, did you coin that term? Is this an official thing, an achievement that people around the world are using, or did you come up with this concept?
Well, what is an official term?
I mean, did you make up Ultimate Explorer's Grand Slam? Okay.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this concept and what does it entail exactly?
I tell you what I think of it. So the Explorers Grand Slam is North Pole, South Pole, and seven summits, right?
Okay.
And every country, visiting every country is visiting every country. And then I just feel like visiting every country, especially me, this is like a confession as much as a criticism. It's like it's a bit autistic, but
Mhm.
and and it, and I see people coming on trips, the group trips that I run and stuff, and I get a lot of messages about visiting every country from people who are trying to do it, older people, young people too, and it becomes like train spotting. And they say to me, like, if I'm doing some cool trip through the Karakoram Highway, I'm going to Pakistan next month, right? It's a fucking cool trip through the Karakoram Highway. We're building this clinic and then traveling through into China. It's really cool. It's like 10 days or 12 days or something. And a lot of people message me saying, like, oh, it's too long to spend in the country, because they want to go in one day and come out again, right? And I would say 80% of people visiting every country do it like that. And I feel
Mm.
like as someone who dreams of traveling and used to not have the means to do so like I did, I feel like it's a kick in the teeth for everyone who dreams of traveling. Just rich people flying into airports of capital cities and flying out again. I hate it.
Yeah.
So then I think, right, well, you want to really see the world. Put your money where your mouth is then. Let's see you then. Because you're not rushing up Everest, are you? That takes 2 months. So come and join the party if you really want to do it. Or are you just ticking boxes? Let's
Yeah.
see.
Okay. So you've added some elements to it to have more of that adventurous side, which you feel like allows you to truly honor these locations as well
And
as.
and that's what I talk about autism. I think like I'm so obsessed with lists and stuff, right? You want to be like visit every country in the world, okay? Then you, if you want to say you've seen the whole world conceptually, okay, you got to go to the highest place on earth, you got to go to the lowest place on earth, you got to go to the hottest place, you got to go to the coldest place. Otherwise, you're just ticking boxes. Like, let's go and really see what there is to see. Like, otherwise, it's just airports and okay, so you're great at planning logistics and you've got money.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, we're going to do a little rapid fire with some of the places that you've been because, well, you've
Sure.
been everywhere. So let's see if we can do some rating. So you've done Everest, Sahara, and Antarctica. Which one broke you the most?
Well, I ran like ultra marathons in Antarctica and Sahara, but Everest, I didn't think I was going to die in the Sahara or in Antarctica, whereas in Everest, like I was scared of dying. But none of them broke me. But when I rode across the Atlantic, that broke me.
Why?
I
Just the
was, it
challenge
was
of it
physically it was
physically?
okay. I was fit, but mentally I really struggled with it because I need my own space. I was like trapped in a boat with these three other guys, and
Mm,
like the boat's like the size of your kitchen table, right? And there's four of you there for 2 months, completely unsupported. 2 hours rowing, 2 hours resting, 24 hours a day for 2 months. And you're
jeez.
physically touching someone at all times. You're sleeping someone like this, and there's a guy beside you there, and you're sweating, and you're soaking wet with salt water because you're getting smashed with waves and everything for 2 months. And I was lying, trying to sleep. You never sleep. Like you sleep maybe an hour or two in 20-minute sets every day. So you're so sleep deprived. And like I was lying there. The waves are like this, and I was just crying at night, thinking like, what? Why have I signed up for this? What am I doing? That completely
Yeah.
broke me. And actually, and then loads of I get loads of like positive affirmations about having done that, and I just think you guys have no idea. If it was capable for me to quit, I would have quit. But I'm stuck in the middle of the fucking Atlantic. I can't quit. I've literally no way to quit. Oh, you're
Yeah.
so amazing that you managed to do that. I'm like, well, if there'd been a boat for me to get off, I would have got off. So like, I don't deserve that praise, but thank you. I was like, I would have quit if I could have.
So could I would have been out. Okay,
Yeah.
which one healed you the most then?
Well, do you know what? Actually, with the every country thing, like I've only been, and I don't use these words frivolously. I've only been depressed that time in Australia when I was working. I
Yep.
was genuinely depressed, like in tears in the nighttime, thinking, "Oh my god!" And also when I finished every country, which is like 6 or 7 years ago now, because it had been like an 11-year goal, and I achieved it, and then I had a massive hole in my life, so I really struggled with those things. And then it's an age thing as well as an achievement thing. As you get older, you realize who you are, and you don't apologize for it so much, and you accept it more. And now I realize that, like, obviously, I'm a type A personality, and I'm driven, and it's not really external validation that I need. It's like personal goals that I have to continue to achieve. So now, like with those rough learning curves, I just make sure that that's the case. So when I finished this Ultimate Explorers Grand Slam, when I climbed that mountain in Antarctica and then ran that ultra South Pole, uh, I was ready for the next step, like in advance, because I knew what it was like to not be ready for the next step, having finished. And I feel like this is like when you finish your degree or whatever, you feel proud of yourself, or when you finish a big project at work, you feel proud of yourself. But to finish like an 11-year project, like visiting every country, most people don't have 11-year projects, so it's very difficult for people to relate to what that actually means after 11 fucking years of dedicating your whole life to something and then
Big
achieving it.
phase.
I, yeah, so no one had prepared me. My sister tried actually, but I thought I was just going to be like, fuck yeah, I'm the coolest person on earth. Like, I'm just going to walk around with a swagger for the rest of my life after finishing this amazing thing. And it was the exact opposite. I was like, number one, anyone can do it because I did it. And number two, like, what the fuck am I going to do now? And so I was ready. So in terms of healing, I would say that awful experience after finishing every country, like, taught me a lot about who I am and accepting who I am, and then making sure that I'm ready for that when other stuff comes.
And it's like it's almost this idea of thinking that once I have this, I'll finally feel this way, right? And then when you got to that point, you still felt the same way about yourself, and it always becomes an inner job. So, yeah.
Completely. And then the beauty, the biggest cliche ever that we have to remove the word cliche from because it's so fucking true, is that the beauty is in the journey. It is never, and only when you've gone through these epic journeys and finished them, you realize that the training and the commitment and the cost of it and all that battle to get there, and then the physical thing itself, whether it's Everest or whatever, all of that is the beauty. The beauty is not standing on the summit. It's honestly not. But these cliches all get devalued because people use it. People who've never done anything with their lives whack it on Instagram and say the beauty's in the journey. They don't know what they're talking about. But for people who've actually done the struggle, the beauty is in the journey. Actually, these guys
It
are right.
actually
They
is.
just
It's
don't know
accurate.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know these viral quotes are rooted in some authentic feeling. Okay. What is one place you've been that has challenged your values?
Oh, wow. Oh, this is actually quite a tough one because I do a lot of charity stuff. Um, like we build a lot of clinics and playgrounds and kindergartens and stuff around the world for developing communities.
Wow.
And um, that's a double-edged sword because I really don't want the idea of white saviorism to exist, and also I worry about it propagating the concept of, like if you give it's more about this parable of I remember growing up, someone told me this thing of like there was these two guys waiting in a waiting room for a doctor, and there was two chrysalis in a tank, and one of them one of these caterpillars broke out of the chrysalis and became this beautiful butterfly. And one guy
Mm.
looks at it and is like, "Oh, look, this like kind of ugly creature became this beautiful thing. It's so beautiful, blah blah blah." And then the other chrysalis was really struggling to. The other caterpillar was struggling to break out of the chrysalis, and the second guy in the waiting room went and helped the butterfly, helped the caterpillar get out of the chrysalis and become a butterfly.
Mm.
And his intentions were pure. And then the butterfly obviously was fully formed, but then just fell to the bottom of the tank and died because it didn't have to go through the struggle to break out of the chrysalis, and it needed to go through that struggle to fully achieve its potential and be able to fly, right? And
Yep.
sometimes I worry about that with the charity stuff that I do. I don't want to like propagate this concept of aid with that, like, with an handout, and I struggle with that.
Mm. That's deep.
Mm.
Thanks for sharing that.
But then, but then, if everyone sits back and says that, nothing gets done. So that's what I'm saying. It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no right answer with that one,
Mm.
but it's complicated.
Yeah. So it's particularly in East Africa. We over like a 10-year period. I've been back to this school in Tanzania that we basically have rebuilt the whole school. It's really beautiful and amazing.
It's
And
amazing.
I'm very close to the principal. This woman called Beatrice. She's cool. But now she just harasses me on WhatsApp all the time, saying like, "When are you coming back? We need another playground. When are you coming back? We need this." And I'm like, "We're built like I'm off to Kashmir in Pakistan to do a pop-up clinic for this community in the mountains." And I try to say that to her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. But when are you coming back to build us these football pitch?" I'm like, "Fuck!" So this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that they're just now almost like slightly reliant on you, but they also
Yeah.
really appreciated your work and they, loved having you. So I'm not
Mm,
surprised that part of your journey involves starting a nonprofit, Medita Adventures. Did I get that right?
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
I mean, that seems to be baked into your story and your nomad journey from the beginning. It was never just about you. It was always about how can I help as many people along the way, starting from giving your mom that coin to building her a home to scaling it by starting nonprofits, sharing with people on the internet, teaching people how to do this too. That's always been a way that you have shared with the world how they can have this freedom too. And I think that's amazing. So I think a beautiful way to end this is I'm going to give you an opportunity to leave two final messages. One to a listener out there who might need to hear it, and maybe one to your past self. So, first to the listener, I want you to imagine somebody sitting at their desk. Maybe it's that brutal 9 to 5 doing that sales job where they absolutely hate. Maybe they're hitting rock bottom. They're scrolling through social media, they see your blog and they think, I could never do that. What do you say to them? What do you leave them with today?
well, it's not about blog for a start, but I would say no one cares about your sob story. Life is hard. No one's coming to save you. That's all the negative side. But equally, there's nothing stopping you. And something I'd say also in the modern era, like you're not destined to be successful. You're not destined for more. No one is. Like you make it yourself, building blocks step by step. No one's gonna like this thing where I'm favored and not favored and that doesn't exist. If you don't get off your ass and graft, like you're gonna stay in the same place forever. And on that note, um, like forget about these dickheads driving rented Lamborghinis in Dubai. You don't get rich overnight. It's bullshit. No one does it. They also didn't do it. You have to build it up slowly. Like it took me 6, 7 years to make my first million. It took me another few years to make my second million. Da, da, da. And for me, that seems really fast. But in the modern era of social media, people would say, like, I don't want to be rich at 40. I'm like, right, well, with that attitude, you'll never be rich at all. You need to stay humble, work hard. No one's going to save you. And then also, you have to commit to something. Like this shiny object syndrome where you jump from the next thing. Oh, should I do drop shipping? Oh, should I do blogging? Oh, should I do Instagram? Like choose what it is you want to do and really give it your all. Because jumping to the next guy who does this, the next guy that doesn't do anything. I've seen so many people fall by the wayside. Like stick to something and make a success of it.
Okay, love it. We went with the tough love tone there, but we
It's
needed to
not a
hear it,
tone.
Johnny.
That's who
Thank
I
you.
am.
Okay, okay. So for your second one, I want you to imagine you're leaving a voice note, 30 seconds, to your 23-year-old self, still living in that hostel in Thailand, living $600 or making $600 a month. What kind of tone? What do we say to that person?
What, to be honest, that's easier for me because I'm very proud of what I've achieved and very happy with I am where I am in my life. So apart from like specific mistakes I've made with like individuals where I've been selfish or whatever, I would just say keep going. It all works out.
Okay.
Because I don't
Simple.
regret my life, Sam. You know, like I fell in a volcano one time, nearly got killed in a helicopter one time, I had a big car crash in Sudan one time. And like when you feel like you're gonna die, like your life does flash. It's true, right? Because I was very close to dying, and all I thought about was like my mum and my missus being upset. I didn't think like, oh, my life's over, because I'm living the life I want to live. So see, the thing about like dying and getting older, the only people who fear dying and complain about turning 30, 40, 50, 60 are people who are wasting their life. If you're living the life that you want to live and you work hard and you create it and you're like, enjoying the fruits of your labor and you stay humble, stay hungry, you don't fear those things because you look back and you're like, okay, it's shit to die, of course, but like, you've done what you're supposed to be doing. You're trying your best, truly trying your best. So those fears don't exist. So, and that's what I would say to myself. Don't worry.
Mm,
Just keep doing what you're doing.
I love it. Just take one step forward every day.
Hey.
Learning from the best. Johnny, thank you always. We could talk for hours and hours, and I would still only ever know 1% of your incredible stories. If we want to learn more, we can go to onestepforward.com. We'll link it in the show notes. And make sure you subscribe or are following this show in your podcast app or wherever you like to listen to this so that you can learn more inspiring, raw, and unfiltered stories like Johnny's here on Nomad Chats. Until next time.